Okay, turn 22. Here's the big news of the turn. The big news of the turn is we're going in on first Adim with about 300 firepower, and then Zagrovic with well over 500, almost 600. Now, this is interesting because Koneko also has well over 500, almost 600 firepower on Zagrovic, and he actually has another 200 firepower available that could hop there in one turn. So, this is something of a gamble on my part, and I'm sending in just the kitchen sink. The reason I'm doing this is that, you may hear some explosions in the background, my roommate is watching a movie. The reason I'm willing to do this is that, if we look at my watch list real quick, and sort by firepower, you may notice I have well over 1600, he only has 959. If we look at his battles, he hasn't won or lost any battles recently, but he just hasn't been building up a whole lot of firepower. So, me trading almost 600 firepower for like 400 of his would be a winning trade for me, because that represents half of his firepower and less than a third of mine. And I have more fleets coming in from Arion. I've got multiple CR orgs arriving. I've got Chaff coming in. I've got Mimer is not building anything at the moment, but what they should be doing is buying the license to Giganto Planet Attackers, and then buying one and getting a lock. So I've got Giganto Planet Attackers coming out of my ears. I have 4 more of those being built here next turn. I've got Orgs coming from Arion. I have the firepower to stop, to hit this fleet, damage it badly, even if I don't win, and a blunt and absorb a counterstroke. Now, he might come in against Jabrea. I'm launching... That guy's hitting Zagrovic. I'm launching this one fleet to hit Jabrea, which should be left alone after this turn. And I'm taking back Mira as well, so I'm claiming those 2 worlds back. Kandrai I also need to claim back, so we're going to launch some Super Space Fighters to do that. And yeah, overall, I think I'm in a position where I can afford to just take a big, risky battle, absorb the losses if necessary. In terms of fleet composition, his fleet composition is pretty good. CR Org 2 V4s are very tough. That said, CR Org 2 V4s don't generate a ton of hits for their firepower. I mean, they generate 35 hits per round on average for their 30-some-odd firepower. I have a bunch of heavy cruisers. Heavy cruisers aren't super hitty either. And the heavy cruisers represent like 170 of the firepower that's going into this. I've got a couple of CR Orgs. CR Orgs are fairly hitty. I don't know. I'm really not... Both of us have pretty balanced fleet compositions. I'm fairly heavy on capital units, to be honest. So I might lose this fight at Zagrovic badly, just because I'm really heavy on capital units. I mean, I have a ton of them. I have relatively little chaff. But I think in the process I will at least do a shit ton of damage, which is the goal. And of course, I'll probably blow up a bunch of Psy Haulers. Psy Haulers only have 70 defense. It only takes an average of like 5 hits to kill one, and we'll be spreading out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hits in a fight that big. Adim is going to fall, absolutely, unless he moves his fleets to defend it, which he could do from Zagrovic, but he can't possibly defend against both that and Zagrovic. He doesn't have that much firepower. He can't stop both. These troops from Kittylandia cannot reach Adim, so if he's somehow guessed which planets I'm attacking, which, to be fair, I mean, he saw Jabakunda empty. He saw me land on Jabakunda and then empty Jabakunda 2 turns ago, or last turn, so he might well be able to guess that we're heading for Adim, especially since he can't see anything on scanners, and he would if I was going to Thermonody, and he would if I was going to Jufur. So he might be thinking, well, maybe they're concentrating everything on Zagrovic, because he still can't see the fleets coming to Zagrovic. All of my fleets are more than 25 units away, I believe. Yeah, all of my fleets are more than 25 units away, so he can't see any of these fleets. He can't see any of the fleets coming for Adim, but he can see that I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of firepower in flight. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm really looking forward to this fight on Zagrovic. I may well lose, like I said, but even if I lose, I'll do a ton of damage to him. And if he keeps everything here to win that fight in Zagrovic with his, like, because he can pile up, like, what is that, 600, like 750 firepower on Zagrovic and beat me with a, you know, like 6 to 5, 7 to 5 edge or something like that. But he can't do that and defend Adim. So we'll just kind of see what happens. Yeah. It'll be interesting. That's the big news this turn. Other than that, moving a whole bunch of little fleets around. Just bouncing about, picking up resources and such. Shifting towards, like I said, Giganto Planet Attacker production. We've got a whole lot of fleets heading out here, and then one coming in with a little bit of population, but we should have some more Ultranium coming as well. And over here, GPAs, just pumping out the firepower to make sure that we don't get wiped out by a counterattacker or something. So, I'll see y'all in turn 23. Should be interesting. Alright, folks, it's turn 23, and this is very interesting. We actually won both battles. So if we look at Adim, there was almost nothing here, but there were 4 relatively unchaffed Megabot V2s. An interesting choice. I'm not sure why he decided to throw away 70 firepower like this. He killed about 20 firepower of mine, primarily chaff. Now, both of my fleets were quite low on chaff, like lower on chaff than is usually recommended, and very, very heavy on hits. But at Zagrovic, he had 387 firepower. He actually pulled back, apparently, some of the firepower that he had here, because last turn he had over 500. And so his 387 met my 583, and lost. Now, he did kill 3 of my Zeron heavy cruisers. He killed all of my standard TK bikes, I think, and half of my TK bike V2s. No, not all of them. He killed a number of my TK bikes. He wiped out tons and tons of chaff, and I lost 1 CR org. So I'm left with primarily capital units and then fast bikes, but still, the firepower trade was actually in my favor there, which I did not expect, because I lost almost exactly 290 firepower, and he lost 387. So he lost about 100 extra firepower more than me there, and he lost 50 firepower more than me there. Hilariously, I sent a Giganto Planet Attacker to recapture Debrea, and this U9 Eliminator killed it in 1 shot. That's fantastic. I love it. Like, Travail messaged me immediately afterwards like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Just like, no, dude. No, don't. There's nothing to be sorry for. That was amazing. We retook Kandra, which is great, and we retook Mira, which is also great. So both of those are good. We're deploying our auto fleets from those places, except for here, which is building A203 crawlers still and doesn't need to be. We're just gonna start building like raiders or something, and you all can move forward. So the firepower disparity between Koneko and I is now alarming. He's down to 683. I'm at over 1500. So he's, you know, I'm going to remove Paladin since he's officially out of the game. We're also going to remove Xenofruit since he's out of the game from my watch lists. So Koneko is overpowered by more than 2 to 1. And really having some struggles. He's got 673 firepower in his total empire. 246 is on Kittylandia. He's got small amounts scattered around in other places, but to be honest, the majority of his firepower is not visible right now. It's also not visible on scanners. So what this tells me is he's actually launching a massive invasion somewhere. Probably. Now, as to where, if I look at his battles, if I list his battles, he hasn't fought any offensive battles for the last 3 turns, or almost 4 turns, and no battles last turn. So he definitely has a lot of firepower moving somewhere. Where? I don't know. Places it could be. He could be potentially heading for Arion. If so, I probably won't know for another 2 turns or so. He's got about 300 firepower moving around, basically, because that's 270. If you add all these up, they come out to roughly 20 or 30. So you're looking at about 300 firepower of Koneko's fleets moving somewhere. Like I said, there's about 200 firepower was missing from Zagrovic from what I expected. So those fleets will be moving at 120. They can't be coming for Gahoon, because I would see that. Could be coming for Serendipity, and I wouldn't see it. Could be coming for Kadesh, and I wouldn't see it. Could be coming for Flinch, and I wouldn't see it. Could not be coming for Soyboy, because I would see that. Could be coming for Mira, but if so, I'll see it next turn when it's 1 unit away. Could potentially be coming for Memer, but I would see it. So basically, he could only be hitting feeder worlds, which is fine. If he wants to spend 300 firepower hitting feeder worlds, okay, we can deal with that. Like, all of that can be handled. I've got a steady flow of firepower coming forward from Arion. That guy's going to Cabnaw, that transport. I don't think that's actually necessary because I'm pumping out fighters on Cabnaw now. So instead, Wicked Prophet here is going to become a combat fleet, and we're going to load it up with TK tanks. Nope, not that. And Zenran War Monks, because I desperately need more fodder to the front. I am cripplingly short of fodder right now. Lots of capital units, but very little fodder. So let's start getting more X5 Raiders on Mira. We're just going to start pumping out fighters and ground chaff and whatever we can on every world that we can. Yeah, super space fighters. I need that Ultranium on Mimer though, so yeah, we'll stick with that. We're building our Gigantoplanet attackers because we're mainly going to be fighting on the defensive now. We're not going to be sending a whole lot of reinforcements to up here, except we do want a flow of fodder going forward because, as I just mentioned, I'm really short of fodder. So we've got a bunch of units jumping on Jabrea to back that up. These guys are deploying to Ducannon. We can look at our fleets real quick. We are projecting ahead our offensive. So we've got Zagrovic. We have a whole bunch of firepower landing on Zagrovic next turn, which we're just going to wait for. And it'll slap in here next turn, give the fleets on Zagrovic a pretty decent kick in the pants, and make that a lot stronger. And so then from there I can hop to other worlds. We're going to hit Bigamo in 2 turns with a little quick raiding force of 2 TK bikes, which should still suffice to take it. We're all going to hit Ducannon in 3 turns. There. That guy's going to land on Jabrea. And then we're deploying to Ebrington in 4 turns. Ebrington is right there. So Ducannon in 3 turns, Ebrington in 4 turns. After that, probably we launch our attack on Kittylandia. Hopefully. Or at least we feint him into building a whole bunch of stuff on Kittylandia. We're pumping out a ton of war mechs on Adim, and once again, we're waiting for them. We're waiting with at least these Gigantoplanet attackers because we're just not chaffed up enough. As for where I want to go with my troops from Adim, I don't want to split up too much because I will start taking very serious casualties. Since he's got this force, which can insta-strike anywhere, close to him. He could, in fact, take all these troops and deploy them to Zagrovic, albeit that would be a terrible idea. What I am going to do, however, is I'm going to go and take Juffer, because Juffer has a lot of population and a ton of Ultranium. So if I can take Juffer, then I'll be in really good shape. So we're going to deploy Titanic Lord to Juffer. We're also probably going to deploy Confident Destiny to Juffer. But what we're going to do here is we're going to get all those guys. We're going to name this fleet Titanic Lord, right? And then we're going to take those crawlers out. So Juffer has a Scanomatic, so it can see Titanic Lord coming. So we can see there's a fleet named Titanic Lord heading to Juffer, and that will be visible next turn. We're going to take this fleet and name it Titanic Lord, all right, which is speed 70, so same fleet, and we're going to deploy it to Thermonity, which can also see it, because they have an EDM sensor 200 on there. And Kittylandia has a TK scan 420, so we're going to take a speed 70 fleet and name it Titanic Lord and deploy it to Kittylandia. All of those fleets will land in 2 turns. So at this point, by doing this, next turn, Koneko is going to be looking at his sensor screen, and he will see Titanic Lord, Titanic Lord, Titanic Lord deploying to those 3 places from Adim. He will see, and Titanic Lord was the name of this fleet when it came in. He will see that there are 3 Gigantoplanet attackers here, plus the War Max. Actually, I don't need 3. I can make this 2. I can modify this Titanic Lord. I can put a 3rd Gigantoplanet attacker in there. So he'll see that these 3 fleets all exist. He'll see that they all have the same name and they're all moving the same speed. He won't know which is the real one, which is the goal. He will know that 2 Gigantoplanet attackers have not been deployed, but he can't quite reach them in 1 turn. And if he deploys all of his forces, his 200 some odd firepower over here up to Adim, to be honest, I'll fight it, because what I can do is I can buy Hue 9 Eliminators. I can pump out like 20 some odd of them, and just inflict enough hits to make it worthwhile. I can create enough fodder for my GPAs to get a few rounds of hits in, and this fleet is super flimsy. Not a whole lot of chaff, lots and lots of capital units. Many of their capital units do not have very high defense. They have a suicide fighter, which will blow up as soon as I look at it funny, And they have 4 Psy Haulers, which are very valuable. And if I kill the Psy Haulers, which are not very well defended, then it strands his units there. So if he were to deploy this force to attack me, I would actually just stay and take the fight and lose the firepower in exchange for doing damage to his capacity to do battle. Similarly up here, we're building Sentinels of Garsasso. It's not many of them, but we have some more TK bikes, a few Super Space Fighters, 10 TK tanks, another Org, another Giganto Planet Attacker, and a few X7 Corvettes all arriving next turn. Turn after that, we've got a significant amount of chaff, which is great because I need a significant amount of chaff, and more instigators, so yet more chaff, all arriving in 2 turns' time. So Zagrovic is definitely going to be a primary army assembly point. And we have a total of 5 Orgs still here, which is great. So yeah, 5 Orgs, 6 Zeron Heavy Cruisers, a whole bunch of bikes. These bikes are actually just kind of waiting. And I can, in fact, deploy them right now. Now, the place where I want to deploy them is Ducannon. And Ducannon is close enough that I could hit it with lots of stuff, but Ducannon is also close enough for a defensive deployment from Kittylandia, and it has enough resources on it that he could build a lot of defenses there, so I'm a little bit leery about attacking it this turn. I would also like to launch a strike against Ebrington, but I have the same problem. My forces are flimsy because of lack of chaff, and so I don't really want to launch attacks to places that could be defended against, because I could just lose a bunch of units for very little return. So instead, we're waiting, we're deploying up more troops, we're rolling in, and I think we have enough time before the game ends to eat pretty much all of Koneko, as long as things go pretty much okay. So, in any case, thanks for watching. I'll see y'all in turn 24. Okay, turn 25. Now, I didn't stale last turn. I got my turn in, I just didn't get it recorded before the turn ticked over, and of course you cannot save Ultracorps turns to do later, but I was actually out when I realized the turn was going to tick soon, and I hadn't finalized some of my moves, so I went ahead and did it on my phone. That is one benefit of Ultracorps, being entirely browser-based. You can play it completely on your phone. So we can look at, actually, my own empire here, and we can look at battles to see if there were any battles last turn. On turn 23, we captured Jabrea from Travail, and Star Charger hit Jabakunda, which was his world that we'd taken, with this little fleet that was coming back in to take it back. So that's fine. We just did that little exchange, and we shifted some fleets around and launched some attacks of our own. So, this turn, on turn 24, we can see, as I anticipated, Koneko was in fact launching a counterattack. He landed a fairly significant fleet on Serendipity. We did absolutely minimal damage, and he has about 275 firepower sitting within striking distance of Soy Boy. So there's that. He defended Kittylandia from my 1 A203 crawler. He has well over 400 firepower there defending it. Lots of Psy Haulers still. He's built a whole bunch of all-terrain rovers, so he now has some chaff, and he has a whole bunch of CR Org 2 V4s. We captured Bigamo. We did lose 1 TK bike, taking it. We captured Thermonity, hilariously enough. This was 13 rounds of nothing happening, followed by, boom, my A203 crawler rolled well before his did. And we captured Ducannon with a pretty significant force, wiped out a whole bunch of Psy Haulers, lost exactly 1 fighter. So we now have a situation where Kittylandia has 464 firepower on it. I have more firepower than that surrounding it. I have 340 there, 490 approximately, about 560, all the way up to about a little over 800 firepower surrounding Kittylandia. That said, Kittylandia has 6,000 population and 6,400 Ultranium, so it can churn out a lot of firepower very, very quickly. For example, all-terrain rovers are 18 complexity, so 100 of them is 1,800 population. He could churn out, I think, 300 or 400... What is it? It's not quite 400. It's about 350 all-terrain rovers in a single turn, which would be, all-terrain rovers are 0.5 firepower, so that'd be about 175 firepower in one turn. And that would not by any means deplete his Ultranium. They cost 7. If he built 350 of them, he would have plenty of Ultranium to do that again and again and again. So that would be fine. What I'm doing is I'm trying to starve the beast a little bit while I'm also getting troops in position to go in on him. Now, Soy Boy is building Gigantoplanet attackers. At this point, it's turn 25. The game ends between turns 29 and 31, so we have between 4 and 6 additional turns in the game. If I can't physically reach an enemy within those 4 to 6 turns, then I can't use these Gigantoplanet attackers. Now, I can't attack Star Charger, and I don't want to attack Star Charger. I can't attack Placid Platypus. I can't attack CFRT, although CFRT is currently in the process of being devoured. There's no point trying to go in here because I might bump with Travail, which would be diplomatically unpleasant. And, you know, I'm pretty satisfied with how well I've done in this game so far anyway. And I think by completing the devouring of Koneko, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus that world, 7 from the tick, hopefully, I'll be able to push myself well up into the upper echelons. I have 25 worlds right now. We've got a situation now that's very, very common in Ultracorps where the one guy who either got lucky or played the best gets to be like a runaway leader. There's no way anybody is possibly going to catch U-Bones at this point. In order to beat U-Bones, assuming the game lasted long enough for this to be practical, you would have to have like all 3 or 4 of the other players beneath him all gang up on him at once, because he has way more population than anybody else and also way more firepower than anybody else by a margin of 500, about 20% more firepower than the next biggest guy. And way more firepower plus way more production capacity means he can't be caught at this point. He's too far ahead. He has 40 worlds, only 3 places down. I have 25 worlds. I can, as I said, I can confidently expect to be above 30 by the end of the game here. So I may be able to push into the top 3, but we'll kind of have to see. In any case, I do need to defend Soy Boy, which I think I can definitely do. I'm pumping out 3 more Gigantoplanet attackers this turn, giving me a nice solid core of 8 Gigantoplanet attackers, and then 100 Sentinels of Garsasso and 25 Hue 9 Eliminators, which hit a little bit harder than Sentinels do. Actually, you know what? I'll tell you what. I'm just going to swap those for another 50 Sentinels of Garsasso, and then place another lock on my Gigantoplanet attackers. So, burning through most of the Ultranium, I'm burning through actually all of the Ultranium that I have saved up, but that should give me the firepower to survive. 100 of these guys is 46 firepower, 23, so that's another 60 some odd firepower. These 3 are another 60 firepower. Altogether, I'm adding about 120, about doubling the firepower that I currently have present. Plus, I have 52 firepower in the form of this fleet arriving in 1 turn. So, I should be able to hold. I don't think it'll be a problem. On top of that, we'll just pop Worthy Hawk down here, along with these 11 X5 Raiders. There's another 50 firepower to defend Soy Boy. I think, if I was in his position, I mean, Koneko's doomed. Like, let's be clear, Koneko is in fact doomed. He can fight with this fleet for a while because he has the carrying capacity and the firepower to hop this fleet around, causing all sorts of problems for me. But he also has to defend Kittylandia, which is going to be rough for him. In his position, I think probably this fleet at Serendipity would be launching an attack on Soy Boy, hoping that he'd caught me out of position. But the fact of the matter is that he hasn't, actually. I have the firepower available to just stop him cold. There's 3 EDM Sensors 200s on here that I can move around if I want to. And I probably should move some of them around. It's too heavy to lift off. Okay. Needs 2 cargo boosters to lift 1 Sensor 200. So we'll just send some Sensor 200s to a couple of other worlds, just, you know, for fun. But at this point in the game, it doesn't really matter. Let's send that to... Gahun already has a sensor. Let's send that to... You're going to Kadesh, so you go to Flinch. Okay, yeah, that'll be fine. So yeah, if he attacks Soy Boy, he's going to end up fighting a very even battle, but one where I think I'll have an edge. I'll have more capital units. I'll have a pretty significant amount of chaff. I think I'll be punching harder than he is, because his CR Org 2v4s, yeah, they get 25 hits each, but he only has 3 of them, whereas I'll have, you know, 9 Gigantoplanet attackers plus a couple of Orgs, and the GPAs get their 16 hits per round. The Orgs get their... How many hits do Orgs get again? The Orgs also get 16 hits per round, so I think I'll hit him, and I'll also out-chaff him. Actually, those are also X5s, so add those to the fleet. So, those guys will all go down here to Soy Boy. And Soy Boy is 280... that's unfortunate. I was hoping that these troops could help attack Kittylandia. I'm attacking Kittylandia in 3 turns, you see. So, Kittylandia, I'm not sure if I have... Do I have fleets aiming at him? I don't have any fleets aiming at him. I have a variety of fleets aiming to land near him. Fleets from Adim will be taking off in 1 turn's time. Titanic Lord is deploying to Thermonity, which I just took. And what I'm going to do here actually is I'm going to take the scanners away so he can't see me coming if and when he retakes this world. So we'll deploy that to Soy Boy. You can take that sensor and just, like, fly away with it. Hop down to Bigamo, I guess. We're churning out fighters and such wherever we can. Swift Venture here can hit Abatewa, which these guys are also hitting. And Gahoon is waiting 1 more turn to get a few more TK bikes to launch for Kittylandia. He will, of course, see me coming and build as many defensive units as possible. My only chance there is to simply generate and concentrate enough firepower to overwhelm him. So actually, these guys need to head towards Kittylandia now. So at Soy Boy, I think I'll still beat him. I think I have enough firepower to just outright defeat his fleets here. We'll deploy those corvettes because we might as well. If he doesn't come for Soy Boy, then that'll be an interesting situation. I mean, I'll have this fleet loose in my territory, and it may well take a whole bunch of my feeder worlds and artificially lower my my score by lowering the number of worlds that I have at the end of things, which would be frustrating, but I don't think it can fundamentally make a difference. I mean, Koneko is just out of the game, and as long as I stay patient and deploy my troops correctly, I can catch this fleet out and beat it, unless it's going around taking worlds 1 at a time, in which case I can just take its worlds back 1 at a time behind it. I have the firepower to do this. I have more than 1,800 firepower at present, and less than half of it is actually in his cluster. The rest is in my territory or currently moving. So, basically, should be fine. You're deploying to Ulnagar. Oh yeah, I was doing that. Deep strikes are very traditional in the end game in order to grab those last couple of worlds that you need to put yourself over some threshold or other. These super space fighters could just hit Ulnagar, but instead I'm definitely going to deploy them down into my own cluster to serve a defensive purpose, to make sure that this fleet doesn't go rampaging around somewhere. I really do kind of expect that it's going to attack Soy Boy, because, I mean, numerically, if you just look at the numbers that I have sitting around, it seems like he should have a good shot at it. The ace in the hole is this 52 firepower that I have coming in that he probably can't see and hasn't accounted for. And then, of course, my production. But, yeah, I mean, in his place, I think I would roll those dice, too. It's possible that he'll take Soy Boy. You know, anything's possible. And then I have another 100 firepower rolling in the next turn, just in case. If I do take the hit, then I'll have those guys sweeping in right behind in order to clean up, and I can divert my TK bikes to take Soy Boy back if necessary as well. So I think I'm going to destroy this fleet here. And then Kittylandia, like I said, Kittylandia can ramp up the firepower very, very quickly if they focus on that. And so I have to plan on, in the end, aiming about 200 or 300 more firepower than he has currently visible at Kittylandia in order to make sure I take it. Soy Boy's ships can't get there in time, especially because I have to stay and defend, but if I defeat the fleet from Serendipity this turn, then everything that's left on Soy Boy will immediately launch on Kittylandia, and they'll arrive a couple of turns behind the times, as it were. From Zagrovik, we're actually just sitting still. We're only 82 units from Kittylandia. We have 340 firepower here, and we've got a whole bunch more coming in. We've got 8 firepower there coming in next turn, another 6 firepower there coming in next turn, and then the turn after we've got 9 there, more chaff coming in there, some CR orgs coming in 3 turns, and a little bit more chaff coming in 2 turns. So we've got a bunch of very small chaffy fleets coming in over the next couple of turns. We've also got these guys going to Ebrington, which is right there, next to Kittylandia. So overall, if we look at our fleets here, Zagrovik, we're just sitting still. If he wants to come out and fight me at Zagrovik, that's fine. I have almost his firepower, and once again, I can absorb losses a lot better than he can. So if he comes out and fights me, I'll lose, probably. Like, odds are really good that this fleet plus what it can build, which is not a whole lot, would lose to this fleet. But in the process, it would strip off most of his chaff, destroy his suicide fighter, and probably kill a few of his CR or V4s as well. So that would be basically fine. Like, I wouldn't really mind that. What I can do... Now, I also have all these troops on Buchanan. I could, if I wanted to, concentrate from Buchanan to Zagrovic. I was concentrating to Bigamo. Nah, tell you what. Let's concentrate these troops on Zagrovic. We'll take the Ultranium and some population along with us. We're building TK tanks down here. We don't really need to. Zagrovic has a little bit more ult than pop right now, but is churning out Sentinels of Garsaso, so that's fine. Actually, we don't need to move this stuff. And if he takes it back, it's fine. At this point, it doesn't matter all that much. So yeah, we'll just build those 13 TK tanks there, and we will leave, just in case we can pick them up. We will leave a Psy Hauler, just one. If he pops back here and retakes Buchanan and kills that Psy Hauler, it won't be a huge loss. But if I manage to pick up those 13 TK tanks, that'll add another, 20 firepower to my fleets. The Tick has contacted me asking for a non-aggression pact. I'm going to respond in the affirmative and hop over here to take Bayatodos. And should be a good old time. So yeah, I think we'll be able to collapse enough firepower on Kedilandia to kill it without too much trouble. We're deploying Titanic Lord down to Thermonity. We're hitting that world with our TK bikes, and then we'll pick up Jingtran on our way back, hopefully. I think these guys are going to head for Kedilandia to reinforce. They shouldn't be able to build enough to defend it after that. So we'll pop over to Thurgton, blow it up. He's building X8s there, so he will have some firepower. So instead of a Bati world, let's actually concentrate. Unfortunate. Okay, let's concentrate on Jingtran, actually, first off. So we'll hit Jingtran with about 50 firepower of bikes, and that should enable us to overwhelm it pretty quickly. And then we can hit Slurgton next turn. Slurgton's been holding off attacks for actually some time, which is kind of hilarious. Don't send in unfoddered capital units, kids. It's a bad idea. But that's the turn. So, that should be good. I'll send my Ultra Mail, my U-Mail, to the Tick, confirming our non-aggression pact. And I'll see you all in turn 36.